Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are so delighted to be back with you here at Double Portion Podcast. The last few weeks have been amazing. We had the Wilsons with us. What a wonderful time we had there. We had Brother Williams with us talking about taking control of our technology. And we're going to continue in that vein, and we're going to give you some resources to do exactly that. Take control of your technology. And you won't see him much in the podcast because he's going to be running the board. We tried to get a camera on him, but he's kind of camera shy. But we're going to have our very own Brother Jordan Pound here with us, talking to us about those resources. So come with us, enjoy the ride.
2 Kings chapter 2 and verse number 9 reads like this. And it came to pass when they were gone over, that Elijah said unto Elisha, Ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. Welcome to Double Portion Podcast.
I owe my life to you in every way, for you have paid the price for me.
Well, we're glad to have you back with us. Before we get started tonight, we do want to read some comments. We've been getting a lot of comments lately. We appreciate all the comments. In fact, we've been getting so many we can't read them all, but I want to read a few of them here for you. When we got to Taking Charge of Your Technology Part 2, Let's Talk About the Bible just gave us a bunch of fire emojis. Yeah. So I guess that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Carson Ministries, good to see them at Summit. God bless you, brother. Phenomenal teaching, excellent content on technology, the church, family, and relationships. We must have accountability and be ready to protect and restore when needed. Great job, Pastor Williams and Double Portion. Thank you. There's a few others here, but we want to say we appreciate all of the comments. Yes. We read every single one of them. We may not be able to read all of them on the podcast, but we do read every single one of them. We appreciate them. I know Bishop actually got some text messages too, personally.
I did. Yes. Welcome back, and it's good to be back with y'all. I know they normally introduce me, but that's all right. If you don't know me by now, you will by the time this podcast is over with. And it's so awesome to be back with you all again, and great content the last few weeks. I did receive a text from Brother Sloss in Fort Myers, Florida. He says, Good afternoon, Bishop Elder. Brother Sloss here. Just wanted to tell you that the podcast on deconstruction, that was the interview that we did with Bishop and Sister Wilson. The podcast on deconstruction was one for the ages. So good. And Brother Sloss, thank you for that comment. We love you so much. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
And being a part of Double Portion Podcast. We will try to keep this going. Brother Jeffrey, you want to introduce kind of what we decided to do? I will say that, and Brother Wilson, Brother Williams did tell us, he did a phenomenal job, but he told us some of the information that he had was dated. So our great tech guy did some research for us, and we want to upgrade some of that information for some of you parents and young people and whoever is listening, because we want to give you as much information as we can to make your walk with God so much easier to accomplish in this world that we're living in. So take it away, Brother Jeffrey.
Yes, before we get too far into it, I do want to say that while we were at Summit, we had so many people come up to us.
Yeah, we really did.
that they appreciated the podcast. They were listening to the podcast. And we appreciate that. We thank you for coming and seeking us out and saying hi. We tried to set up a booth. It didn't work out this year, but we're going to make it happen next year.
We will do it next year.
And then I preached in Michigan over the weekend, and people in the church there, they were saying, man, we're listening to the podcast. So we appreciate all the listeners. Thank you. We want to jump into this tonight. We have a great man of God in our church here locally that God has sent to us, Brother Jordan Pound. Him and his family came to us going on 3 years now, I believe. Is that correct?
This year is
3 years.
Wow, are you serious?
Yeah, 3
Time,
years.
It's
time
like the
flies.
little froggy said, time's fun when you're having flies.
Yeah. Yeah, Declan
right.
will be 3 in November, so he was born here.
And we have been so blessed by this family. As soon as they hit the ground, they were just involved in everything. And that's what Bishop has taught us around here, is that ministry is serving. And for these last 3 years, they have shown that. And one of the greatest ways that Brother Jordan has been such a benefit and a blessing to us is for many, many years, he has been in the IT world, and he did a lot of work in law enforcement, has done work in city government, and now he's just doing IT for huge candy corporations.
Gaining weight.
It's pretty awesome. He's been telling us about the production there.
They crush millions of pounds of
Oh, yeah.
candy every year, and I'm not
Yeah,
exaggerating.
we did a couple 100,000 pounds of candy crushed every day, at least.
That's
So,
amazing. Do you crush Butterfingers?
I do.
Oh, I love Butterfingers.
Reese's, yeah.
And in the corporation that he's in, all of it is run essentially off IT. It's all automated machines, ran all the way back
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
internet. I mean,
Yep.
it's pretty incredible, the process that it
networked.
goes through. And so with that being said, as we know, our life, whatever we're in, can transfer into ministry. And how that is transferred here is he has taken our IT, our media, as
media,
far as
yeah.
internet media side of the church, to a whole new level. I mean, he helped us build an app, and I know there's a lot of churches. I'm going to give an unashamed shout out right here because he's too humble to do it. But if your church is considering an app, you need to get a hold of Brother Jordan Pound. He has built us an app that I'm not just saying this to plagiarize or maybe that's not the right word that I'm looking for, but he has built us an app that is just, I'm talking about a first class church app.
Yeah, go down and download CGC
yeah.
Pueblo app.
Join
You'll
the
see it.
community, yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
If you're a pastor and you're listening to this, go download our app and see it's just amazing how I heard some people talking about how it brought a community to our church.
Oh, yeah.
That is just absolutely amazing. In fact, I was on the app this morning. I finally learned how to do notifications off my app after having it for I don't know how many months. and all of the prayer requests, not only from our church here in Pueblo, but our sister church in Greeley, where it actually puts our two churches together.
Yes.
And as God helps us expand, everybody can stay connected through this app. It's just a shameless plug. I recommend that go check it out, and if that's what you like, Brother Jordan Pound can help you with that.
And so that's just one aspect that he's helped us. And so we're gonna tap into his wealth of knowledge tonight, and we're gonna continue in the vein of taking control of our technology, because there's two sides of this, as we talked about. There is the plus side of it, we talked about apps and social media, And then there's the negative side as well that we need to be conscious and aware of. And we're probably going to get into both of these tonight. So let's get started here tonight. A lot of the information that Brother Williams gave to us was a little bit dated. He told us that most of his sites were from 2009, which, as we know, even from 2009 until now, the internet has taken leaps and bounds.
Yes.
It is infiltrating every portion of our life. You cannot, unless you live under a rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you cannot live without the internet.
No.
In fact, they are coming up with ways to bring the internet to every portion of the earth because it's a way to connect everyone.
Yep. That being said, I had a gentleman, I was telling Brother Hicks and Brother Reed this the other day, that still did not have an email and didn't even have a flip phone.
Wow.
I set him up with his first email ever. It's pretty amazing. I was blown away.
How refreshing.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
What a way to live.
I have wanted to do that at times. I
Yes.
promise you.
I assure you I have. The only time I went without a phone in the last few years, I bought a brand new iPhone. I had not had it 1 week, and I was horse riding with Pastor Ricky Treese. And the horse was jogging, and it jogged out of my pocket. And so for that whole day, I did not have a phone. I felt so liberated.
Yes, sir.
But on the other side, you can't live without it. I mean, everything I've done today is this phone's telling me what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I love the power of information that I have at my fingertips.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And it is a tool. So
Yep.
we want to talk to you about how do we take this tool and put it in the right, use it in the right capacity.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit, Brother Jordan.
Yes, thanks. This is a huge subject, I think. And then I want to start out by saying thank you to Brother Williams. If you have not heard those podcasts, go back and listen to Taking Control of Technology. And then that Tuesday night, that was live. He also talked about it in service.
Yes, if you can you
Yes.
give them the information
CGC
on
Pueblo
what-
Live.
Yes.
If you see this podcast on YouTube, it's a part of that channel. It is labeled. It's also in our app. You can go to CGC Pueblo, download the app. It's labeled in there as well. But he talked that night to parents about technology, about pornography, about accountability, and it was a very serious service. But it's a subject we have to address. If you're a parent, if you're a husband, if you're a wife,
If you're a young man or a young lady,
yeah, absolutely,
you got to take control of your life.
Yes, and so in that subject, he's great at speaking. So you've got to go back and just listen to it. Even though it was 2010, some of the articles he referenced, it's still very powerful. And I will preface this by saying I am still digging up some of the links that he utilized there, because those companies, those statistical studies, they're still doing those, but I want more relevant ones. And so some of the stuff that I have is still a few years, but it's newer. And what I will do is going forward, either in the app or via our podcast, I will start linking some of this information in there, because it's worth referencing for teaching purposes, or if you guys are just interested, we'll make a resource available so you guys can reference this. So, and we'll just cover some of this, and then you guys can open questions. But I know, Nashville BP put out this. This is 2017, so this is 7 years newer, and there's a new study going on from here, I think, to 2024 is what they have here, that pornography on smartphone and tablets are available to 250 million people worldwide every second.
Every second.
So
that is just crazy.
I will link these studies in there, but there is, the bottom line is there is at your fingertips stuff like this. Your kids, young adults, married men, married women. It's there. It's happening. It's available. They're pushing it, and the tool you have in your hands, it can be a tool of good or a tool of bad. and the agenda of it, the people that are developing this, they don't always have the best intent. So being aware of what's there and what's being pushed is number one. You got to be aware that it's there, what's going on. You can't be blind. And then we can start talking about how we protect ourselves and put levels of protection so that we don't come across this as ourselves individually, as married couples, that our young people never come across this, and that it never affects our kids, or that we really mitigate the risk that could happen there. Another thing they're talking about is like online gambling. They're saying by 2024, mobile gambling is going to grow by $100 billion.
Wow.
And that's mobile gambling. It's not even just browser online gambling. That's your mobile device gambling. By 2030, it's like $400 billion. And I'll link all this stuff in this podcast, either right after when this drops or going forward. I'm working on a spreadsheet, and I will put this information in there that will be readily available. You guys can either DM us or message us. We want to make this stuff available for you all. So it's there. It's happening. There's so much noise, so much happening in our world. Sometimes we don't think about it, but it's going on. It's happening. It's destroying lives. And so we want to make stuff available. So part of what I'm doing here is we understand that a lot of times technology can be challenging. It can be scary. Technology affects the part of the brain, the analytical part of your brain. So sometimes when you're trying to learn something technical, it's going to cause growing pains in the mind, if you will. So sometimes implementing security apps or listening to somebody talk about technology can be very challenging. And a lot of people just zone out. You'll see their eyes dilate and they'll tune you off. So that's why having like Brother Williams, who is he's a great speaker. He understands it well, and he can. His oratory abilities are great. So again, go back and listen to these podcasts that he put out. But we have to take control of it. So what we're going to start putting out there is some free ways of basic security on apps.
Let's start with those, brother. The free ones, like even in the app, like you were telling me, the parental controls, and we talked about this. And we'll come back to this, where he can even do PowerPoint screens in this podcast to give parents and young people ideas on how to set up the protection on your iDevice or your Android device,
right?
So that that's where we start.
Yeah, and let me say this up front, as a parent. If you do not have any understanding of technology, there is no dumb questions. If you do not have any understanding of this, don't let it be the stopping point, you asking the question. Because sometimes that can lead to an idea that was not thought about, or it can streamline a process for people that are trying to help people with this. So if you have questions, I'm available. I can try and reach back as soon as possible, but message us. And if I can't answer it directly, I can find resources to help you with what you need. Because I believe this is very important. So, what's that?
I'm sorry for interrupting you, Brother.
No, go ahead.
Pound, but don't be afraid to ask tech people in your church.
Yes, absolutely. Ask your pastor.
There are resources there for you, young man, young lady, parent. Sometimes parents rely on their children more than the children rely on their parents, and so it's as Brother Pound is saying, there has the biggest safeguard and the biggest safety net is communication.
Yes.
That is huge in this fight, and it is a fight.
Yes.
You have to prepare yourself for it. You have to go on the offense on this. You become proactive for this. You can't be shy about this, Mom and Dad.
Right.
I'm on up in years, although I still consider myself a young person. That's why we do this podcast. But the only way that it helps me is I ask questions all the time. And sometimes I feel like, man, this is just crazy. I have a master's degree and I don't even know how to turn this switch on my phone. But that was a different era, and there are people that can help us with that. So I've learned, just ask the question. It's like Brother Pound said, there are no dumb questions.
No, I'd rather be safe than sorry, if anything. So we'll cover some free apps. These don't do everything, but I've tested these. I've played with these. They do offer another level of security that you otherwise do not have. So on the iOS device, they have Screen Time, which is built native into all of the Apple devices. And I'm not going to go into the breakdown of how each component of that works, but there are YouTube videos on Screen Time. You can simply go on YouTube and type in, and there's so many different users that do this very well. Go on YouTube and just type in Screen Time configuration for children. And you can go in there and you can lock out the App Store. You can set time limits. You can lock out certain apps. You can play with the contacts and who's authorized to text and message. All that functionality is built within the iPhone. Another thing you can do that's also free is if you set up, I highly recommend that you set up your kids' accounts. If they're in your house, you have their username, their passwords, and then you sign into those accounts on your device so that you can see the messages coming in and out of whatever account that is. So on top of the device being locked down, you also can monitor the traffic, emails, messages that are coming in and out of there. Again, there's tons of resources on YouTube for that. But if you're not comfortable or you're not sure, you'll probably hear me say this a lot tonight. Please message. Don't sit there quiet and not figure it out or not understand. If you don't have anybody in your church or you don't have a resource, please reach out. For Android, they have an app called Google Family Link. And I personally use this one. Brother Williams had talked about, this is kind of stood out to me huge. And this is different for everybody, so be careful. But for my sons, part of me teaching them accountability and responsibilities, they both have devices that are very locked down. They have no access to social media, anything. They use the device as basically a tool. There's nothing else on it. One has cell phone service, one's on Wi-Fi. But I use Google Family Link, and it allows me to lock out the apps. Very similar to the iOS. I can lock out apps, messaging, time limits, all the same stuff. The only difference is you can do it remotely on Android compared to iOS, and the configuration and setup is obviously different because of the operating system. But they are both free options. And then again, on both of them, you want to sign into their emails. You want to sign into, we don't do social media right now because they're too young. But if you have kids in your house that are over 18 and that's approved, I would sign into the social media accounts. So that way you can see what's happening in the media. And those are free options. And again, on YouTube, there's literally hundreds of people that are talking about this because there's, Christian or otherwise, there's parents out there that are concerned about what their kids are getting into on technology. So they've researched this, they've played with this, and they've done the time and put really nice videos up showing people how to do this. So there's some excellent. I have some resources, but if you can't find them yourself, I'm going to ask you to message me, just because I don't know the people that really are on YouTube. But I can definitely send links to anybody that needs resources like that on how to set that kind of stuff up. It's real easy.
To young people, let's maybe talk to a young man or a young lady that's struggling. Mm-hmm. Let's say with pornography. Right. The first thing that I would recommend is if you are into it very deeply, the first thing you need to do is talk to your pastor.
Yes.
And the second thing that you need to do is talk to the first thing is your parents and your pastor. Yes. And I want to go real sensitive here. You may not have some support from your parents or your pastor, one or the other, but you've got to find somebody in your life because your victory will start with accountability.
Yes.
That's where it will start. And you've got to get it out in the open where Satan can quit condemning you
Yes.
in the secrecy of it.
Yep.
So you have to find some allies that will not condone what you're doing, but they will understand what you're doing, and they will keep you accountable.
Right.
And then there are some applications, Brother Pound, in that area that we can talk about as well, that you do have to pay for,
Yes.
but they're good applications.
Yes. And then just a side note, if there's anybody out there that's really interested in building an app, let's go build it and encourage you. I would support anybody that wants to go out and build apps that are affordable for our church people to use for this kind of stuff, because it can get expensive and some people can't afford that. And that's where we run into issues. But there are two apps that I've personally used. And the price point varies depending upon the type of device and how much service you want to receive. So they have different premium accounts, your mid-level accounts, your entry-level accounts, and all of those are going to do different things. And we'll mention their names. The first one I use that I like personally, you have to fine-tune it a little bit, is Accountable to You. I really like this one. It's more of a kind of logs your keystrokes, and you can set your sensitivity levels, keywords, and so that anything that happens within your texting or messaging on whatever application you're using on that device or browser, it's going to trigger an alert to the recipient or the accountable person that's on that app with you. And Covenant Eyes does very similar, and Covenant Eyes goes a little bit further, though. You can see like browser history. You can set restrictions on that as far as applications and what can be accessed in there. I've used it a lot less, but I do know people on like some iOS devices, they prefer Covenant Eyes sometimes.
I have friends that use Covenant Eyes, ministerial friends, so that they are accountable.
In both of these applications, they actually have a lot of YouTube channels and a lot of supporters that are on there that they can go through full setups on there on YouTube, all the ins and outs, the bells and whistles, all over YouTube. But again, you'll hear it again, if you run into an issue where I just don't understand it, do not stay quiet. Please ask the question. I don't completely understand how to set this up, because we've had users that they want to be accountable, but they don't have the understanding by just watching a video and going in and doing it themselves. So people can help you set that up. People can walk you through it.
And let's make this, because we are dealing with young people. And by the way, the growth of pornography among young ladies in the world is absolutely scary.
Yes.
So it's not just young men anymore like it used to be.
No.
And this is very detrimental. Many of the studies, we'll come back and we'll do a whole series on pornography, because there are literally physical damages. They have proven that it destroys gray matter, brain matter.
Yes.
Anybody that, even if you're not a believer in Jesus Christ, which we are on this, but if you are not, it's important that you do studies on this, because it is very detrimental to your progress, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Having said that, if you're very deep into that area of life, you're not going to get out of it without help.
No.
Unless it's just a rare case where God, and He can.
Yeah.
I've seen Him do it. He can instantly heal people. But for the majority of times, and I've been in ministry for 43 years, and I've seen people pray and fast and do all kinds of things, they need help, especially if they're very deep into this wicked world. And they've got to have some allies. So they're expensive. I think you told me that Covenant Eyes is $20 a month.
Yeah, so it's going to be around $20 a month, plus or minus, depending on the amount of devices you use, the account you select.
Now, to some, $20 a month is not that expensive.
So there are these apps available for the Covenant Eyes, the Accountable to You. They are great platforms. They're not super expensive, and when it comes to salvation, you can't put a price point on that. But some people really can't afford that. But the bottom line is you can't just close the door or the gate on this. You've got to have people, your friend. They're not just your friends, but they care about your salvation. They care about you. They love you. This could be parents. This could be spouse.
Yeah, they have
past.
that other side. I'm sorry for interrupting
No,
you,
go
Brother
ahead.
Pound, but the interaction is so important for not just the addiction to porn, but let's say somebody is struggling with gambling.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And the only way they're going to have freedom, and we haven't even researched the apps that will help someone on the gambling side, which is a huge deal. And I predict to you that it's going to start outing, and we're going to have to, again, as apostolics, we take a stand against gambling.
Yes.
That is a work of the flesh. That is something that has to be brought into submission to God. And so if you're involved in that world, there I'm sure will be apps, perhaps even Covenant Eyes will help you in that area where you have allies. You have people that not only pray for you, not only keep you accountable, but they fight with you, and they'll call you up and say, hey, I saw you got a hit. Come on, man, you can make it through this.
Right.
Don't give in to it. Or come on, sis. God's on your side. We'll work through this together. Stay on the phone with me till you get past this point of this trigger of temptation or whatever. And there may be other avenues, Brother Pound.
So a lot of these apps allow you to put in custom stuff like that. So Accountable to You can put in custom things like gambling and pornography or anything like that. And so you can get really granular on some of these. I haven't gone that granular in Covenant Eyes, but it's a huge app. I'm assuming a lot of this is built there depending on your sensitivity level. But another aspect that is not talked about, but a lot of these effects are dopamine addiction effects that they feed the brain, right? A lot of times you're spending 5 to 10 hours on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. You're just in reels all day, and maybe it's not perversion or gambling, but it's you can't get it. You're addicted to.
You're addicted. Yeah,
you've got to get.
Paul said, "All things are lawful, but not all things are expedient." He said, "I will not come under the power." Of anything.
Yeah. And it's huge. And I'll keep this pretty gray, but I know of a young man that it was kind of that argument. He had too much screen time, and I had a person I respect highly. He became very accountable. They locked the device out, and at first it was a struggle because he was so used to just being on there scrolling and just having that time.
Well, let's talk about that because, and I know we're at the end of our time here, but parents can control the screen time. You can shut it down. It will go off at a certain time on that device. Not just parents. If you're an adult and you're spending too much time, have the courage to look at your wife or your husband and say, set this time where I can't spend 4.5 hours on YouTube.
Right.
Because now they have the short clips just on YouTube like they do on
every social media.
Social media, because it's designed to addict you.
Yes.
That's what it's designed to do.
It is absolutely right. It's marketed for that. But I will say this, that young man that allowed that in his life, it's been a few weeks, but it's been a positive. He's making a turnaround. He's getting work. He's finding things to do like read. I know it sounds so crazy, but you forget sometimes. We get so full of what's going on and distracted, and we've got to remember that the enemy's out to captivate your mind, your attention, and he's got the tools and resources and unlimited amounts of money to do so. And as parents, as just responsible Christians, we've got to be aware of these. We can't be naive. Even if we're scared of the technology, we've got to ask the questions. We've got to put those things
proactive.
In place. Yes.
Always proactive.
Yes.
You brought to my attention, I was communicating with an individual, and they were telling me, I love to read. I forgot how I love to read because I got so deep into this addiction, and they weren't doing bad things. They were just wasting their life scrolling and scrolling. Right. And let's talk about the other side of this. And, we're not beating a dead horse. Brother Williams and us, we did talk about this, but the side of the emotional dungeon that you go into.
Yes.
Number one, you've wasted all that time, so you're down on yourself for that. Number two,
Right.
you never live up to
No.
what is there.
It's an addiction.
It is an addiction.
And you're going to have the same fallout, the anxiety, the depression.
The low.
It's going to have the same thing. And then it like any other addiction, you're going to go back to it more frequently. You're going to spend more time there. And then those swings are going to be more dramatic. And we'll link some of this, but there's so many case studies out there anymore. If you really just do a little bit of research, you'll see that there's scientists, there's medical doctors, medical professionals. They talk about this. There's this huge dopamine effect, and they give percentages, but it's the same effect. It's the up and the down, the swings. The addiction gets worse, and so all those effects you would have on a physical substance that you'd be taking orally or through a shot, you're having with a cell phone or reels or whatever it is that it's got you captivated. So what we want to offer is number one, heaven's coming, heaven's soon, and we want to make it. And so whatever it takes to make it to heaven. So if we can offer resources, we're all in this together. And so
maybe we have some tech people
Yeah.
that are listening or watching, and you guys have your own lingo. It's like musicians.
Yeah.
So contact
Yes.
Brother Jordan. We love the feedback. That's
Right.
that's how we win the battle, is communication. I know I used to play a lot of basketball, and you don't win games if everybody's for themselves. You win games by talking to one another, by
Right.
being in the right position and talking about who you got covered and what are you playing, zone or man, and are you manning up, and who's getting all that communication. Well, we're in a fight. And we
Yes.
got to talk to one another.
Yes.
We're going to help one another make it till we get to heaven.
Right. So, I mean, if you guys know better applications that
Yeah.
are more cost effective, or you've implemented things that have worked for you, we have parents out there that need this. We have young people that need this. That I believe they want this.
I do too.
And
Oh, yeah.
and so if we can find things that are cost effective or free or just a great resource, communication is the key. But we have a great community of church people, and I believe if we collaborated, we could come up with some awesome stuff.
Well, Brother Jordan, thank you again for taking the time with us. Brother Jordan, if you get to know him, he's one of the hardest working men you'll be around. He's not always vocal, but he is such a massive blessing in this area. It shows us the side of social media and church media that is dedicated to God and committed to the holiness and the pureness of using this strictly and solely for the kingdom of God. So we appreciate you taking time to be with us and kind of finishing that up and helping Brother Williams and I clarify. We love citations. I know we live in a world, they all want empirical evidence, so we're trying to give you the empirical evidence that you want.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us. We will see you down the road. We're going to be with you here the next coming weeks. We've got some more good stuff coming along.
Passing the torch.
Passing
coming
the
up.
torch is coming.
Yeah, don't forget, October 5, 6, and 7.
Yep.
Make plans to attend.
Yep.
We're going to get some good podcasts out of that somewhere. So God bless every single one of you, and we'll see you on the next one.